Greetings and peace to you all. My name is Umi. Thank you guys for tuning in to another video. Today we are going to be talking about a very popular number, which is the number 11. I am sharing a very unique perspective on this number. I encourage you to write down what I'm sharing because we're looking at more tangible evidence. So this isn't just my intuitive response to the number 11. This is actually coming from utilizing Gematria. Knowing that numbers don't lie, I like to associate words that we commonly use in connection to the number 11 and to see the correlation, see the synchronicity, see how there's messages even there that we can extract from this study. So if you are someone who's interested in numbers, numerology, Gematria, mysteries associated with all of this, then definitely stay tuned. I think you guys will find this video very useful. You can add it to your study of this number and kind of formulate your own conclusion based on your insights and your intuition. But for the most part, this is just something that you can write out and you can follow along with me and challenge what's being shared here. And hopefully you will have some sound idea and insight into the number 11 by the end of the video. So let's begin by talking about the number 1. In numerology, the study of numbers, the number 1 is associated with the initiator, someone who takes the lead. If we're talking about an individual, the number 1 is a number of direction and force. It's the first number, and then all other numbers come after it. So the number 1 is very much about courage and taking risk because you're the first to do something. You're stepping into unknown territory. So this number 1 is the core number in 11 because any master number, you look at the number by itself and then how it multiplies or amplifies when it's doubled. So 1 becomes 11, 2 as 22, 3 is 33, 4 is 44, and so forth. The numbers are magnified. Its initial meaning or core meaning is amplified or magnified when the number is doubled. And we call this a master number, and we observe it in isolation, what the number means. So let's begin with a few words. We're going to start with the word guide. As I just mentioned, number 1 is connected to leadership, those who take the lead in a thing, who are usually more assertive, aggressive, not afraid to step into unknown territory. So in numerology, or rather I should say Gematria, we would assign a number to each letter according to the alphabet. So I'm not making this up. You can do this yourself. The letter G is the 7th letter of the alphabet. We can all agree on that. U is the 21st letter of the alphabet. We can either put 21 here or we can simply put 2 plus 1 is 3. The value will be the same at the end, whether you use 21 or 3. It's totally up to you. I is the 9th letter, D is the 4th letter, and E is the 5th letter. If we were to add all this up, 7 and 3 is 10, plus 9 is 19, plus 9 is 28. So the number is 28. Remember, in numerology, we reduce every number to a single digit, unless it's a master number, 11, 22, 33, 44. So since we have 28 here, 2 plus 8 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1. So the word guide equals 1. And again, this is associated with, if we're looking at it in a spiritual context, that which leads us, guides us, is an example for us. If you're brought up in Christian Judaism or in the Christian faith, Jesus is a guide to people, a way in which we should live, a way in which we should walk. So there was a reason I used this word guide, because many people say, I talk to my guides this, my guides that. So we are referring to this number 1 in relation to a guiding force. So symbolically, seeing the number 11 is going to bring us back here to this number 1. I will find my eraser in just a moment. Let's look at another word that is significant in this. That word is spirit, S-P-I-R-T. Let's add that up. S is the 19th letter, but we will do 1 plus 9, which is 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. So we can just say S is 1, P is 7, I is 9, R is the 18th letter. We'll just assign it 9. I is the 9th letter, T is 20, we'll give it 2. Again, you can do the full value if you'd like. Let's add this up. 9 times 3 is 27, 28, 29, plus 7 is 36, 37. So spirit equals 37. We'll reduce that to 10, which then becomes 1. Spirit is equal to 1 in Gematria. Again, same applies here in the spiritual context in connection to guide. We say, Spirit has told me this, Spirit has shown me that, Spirit is my guiding force. When we say Spirit, this is for our age of people, this age of individuals who, instead of using a specific name for the omnipresent force or God, people will say Spirit because it's more all-encompassing. And if you're very religious, then you will find an issue with that. You feel people should use a specific name to identify their God. But as new souls are coming on the planet, there's a greater desire for this all-encompassing need to just embrace. There's a force that we don't all know, we can't all identify, that we just refer to as Spirit, the unseen force that is within all of us, that's in all things, all living things. You don't have to agree with that belief or that ideology, but Spirit is just a general reference to the unseen force. So Spirit, again, and guide are connected. We see this with the number 1 as it's something that leads the soul. So dismiss your ego for a moment, your beliefs, your ideologies, and understand that your soul is constantly seeking for something that leads it or guides it. You're not going through life just solely on your own, I know everything, I know where I'm going, I got it all figured out. You're lying to yourself. We all have looked for some guidance or direction in life. And if you consider yourself someone who has a spiritual need, then you've turned to some higher force. You've looked to it. If it wasn't a higher force, maybe you've turned to science and education to try and figure things out. But you will always come back to this place within yourself where you have existential questions that simply cannot be answered even just through science. So you begin to look at the unseen factors of life. This is associated with Spirit. Let's move on to the number 11. So we've got guide, we've got Spirit. We recognize that these words equate to 1. Now we're going to look at the number 11 because this is what the whole video is pointing to here. What does all this 1111 business mean? Let's start with one word. I won't write it down. I'll just type it and add it on the board. We'll start with the word force. As I've mentioned, Spirit is connected to force because it's something that moves us. It can move an entire mass of people. The force is like a part of what is helping us to evolve. It's even in the cosmos, like our galaxy is literally moving. Something is moving our galaxy. Something is creating a shift. Something is allowing for change and evolution. We may not know what it is or how to identify it, but things are expanding and there is a force that's creating that, whether it's scientifically this, Big Bang, this big roar that has expanded everything out and we're all still shifting and expanding over billions of years. It's just been a constant force that's been moving everything. That is the force that is in all of us. The force that moves us to change, moves us to evolve, moves us to do something that is out of our comfort zone, challenges us. The force is connected to Spirit. Someone can be the most heinous, evil, cruel, disgraceful person on the planet. The spirit behind that attitude and that action that person has carried out or that person lives by, it's a spirit there. And that spirit that makes them do the things they do is the force that drives their actions. The same as with, I'll use myself for example, sharing certain content and sharing things that I feel can help benefit another person. There's a spirit behind what I'm sharing. There's a force that moves me to do this, to sit here and to discuss these things and to try and understand and figure it out and to try and connect with people, to people with like minds. That force is respectfully what we all need in our lives in order to bring about change, in order to have a greater understanding and appreciation of our reality. Moving on, let's look at the word ether. Many of you have heard of ether. I've said the ethereal plane. We're just speaking of this sort of unseen, non-physical element that is a part of existence. This could be connected to guide and spirit and force. It's kind of all very similar or all connected. These are words and terms we use within the spiritual community, within the our understanding of just the higher realms. We use these words to try and explain it, try and define it. And much of this can't really be narrowed down or simplified, but we attempt to do it through language. But it's something that is felt, and it's something that's understood through experience, and something that is often witnessed. And those Eastern seers and sages and prophets and people who have risen, even here in the West and in other parts of the world, will say that there are some things that just can't be explained, some things that we don't talk about because it becomes profane. Instead of being profound, it turns into this profane thing because people try and make the higher and more sacred teachings secular, and we just try to do what works for us. Like I think they have crazy stuff out now, like drunk yoga, which is ridiculous. It's such a disrespect to the practice. It's such a disrespect to what it's intended to do for us, but people come up with their own thing that fits their lifestyle and what's convenient for them. In an esoteric sense, we're speaking of just this sort of higher realm of our existence that isn't seen but can be accessed. So I know that sounds like, okay. Let's move on to light. The word light, everyone has heard this. Light worker, light body. Light is what is in reference to the soul. So we're not talking about just a physical plane or physical light. We're talking about the light that enlivens or awakens the soul. So the light body is what brings us online. It's actually what warms the body. It's the essence of the soul within. And when we are enlightened, then we're like awakened, we're resurrected. You come online, you're alive, and you're alive beyond just in the physical sense. You're alive in terms of your awakening, your consciousness. You're here, you're aware, you're on watch. So you're aware of things that are happening in your reality, and the light allows you to see, to navigate your path. If you can't see, as if being blindfolded and wandering through the woods, you can fall into a river, you can fall off a cliff, you can walk into trees, you won't be able to defend yourself, you're helpless. You're in essence going to die in that state of blindness and darkness and ignorance. So light is intended to awaken us. People who consider themselves to be light workers, they in essence are saying, hey, I'm here on the planet at this time to spread love, to spread light, to awaken people through goodness and righteousness and peace and love and all of that stuff that is benevolent and beautiful. So they assume the title a light worker, and they feel that that's their job, is to combat darkness and evil and negativity and hatred and all of that. So light is connected to guide, connected to spirit, connected to force. It's something that allows us to see in this dense material world where it is very much darkness here. Yes, it's light outside, it's daylight, but that doesn't mean that people are not wandering around in darkness, spiritual darkness, unable to see clearly. They don't know their path, or they're stuck in a certain mindset or dogmas or rituals that don't empower them, that don't awaken them, that don't help them to see their connection to other people. This is why people are so judgmental and they're so full of hate without even realizing it, because someone is different than them, because they can't see them. To see a person is to see beyond the physical, beyond the soul, beyond the physical and beyond the ego, beyond the exterior, beyond that person's beliefs. Light is what motivates. It helps us to see beyond the facade, the exterior, the limitations of another person and into their soul. The word wisdom. Scripture talks so much about wisdom, which I find to be beautiful, but we often overlook it. And I will say, if that's something that you desire, it takes some time for it to cultivate within us, because it does come with a measure of experience. We can witness other people's situations, and we can gain wisdom by witnessing others' mishaps or misfortunes or their situations. We can also gain wisdom through our own experience. We can gain wisdom through what we're taught. If you really listen and absorb what is being taught to you, whether it is through sacred texts, whether it is through your rituals, whether it is just through life, then you absolutely will attain wisdom, and it's something that is useful to you throughout your life and something that is connected to light. Remember, I've said in many videos that knowledge, as much as we all love knowledge and we love the power that is associated with knowledge, knowledge is connected to water. It's refreshing, it has so many benefits, but just like the ocean, it runs deep and it can get very dark down there. And there are some things in the bottom of the ocean we don't want to have to come in contact with. So knowledge likewise can run very deep. And there is some dark knowledge that is floating around on the internet and dark knowledge floating around associated with metaphysics and occult studies. I don't encourage that. What I do encourage is wisdom. This is connected to the 11 because it is a gateway. It is a doorway. It is an opening. And please be aware that this 11 is not limited to just one gateway. It's symbolic. It's like a gate within a gate, within a gate, within a gate. So if you were walking, you would be entering through these dimensions. You'd be walking through this hall, so to speak, this gateway. And it goes, if there's levels to this, there's layers to this. You don't just stumble on wisdom and then you're wise. We don't just see light and then we're enlightened. It's levels to it. And so for some of you, when you start to see this 11, 11, 11, and you see in these different numbers, but we're talking about 11 here, be aware that spirit, your guiding force in this dimension, this third dimensional reality, is sending you these synchronicities, or you're witnessing these synchronicities, or you're coming in alignment with this as you're beginning to see yourself. You're beginning to recognize that you're no longer your ego, you're no longer your past, you're no longer all of these beliefs and doctrines and all, you're none of that. So as you begin to seek and you begin to desire and understanding, you'll start to see certain numbers in your reality, because we're living in this matrix, for lack of a better term. We're living in this reality where so much that we can't see of the unseen. So that makes us question, and it makes us seek signs, and makes us really want to know, is this the truth? Is this the way? People who have a strong faith don't need signs. They don't need cards. They don't need astrology. They don't need any of that stuff. They're simply walking by faith, because for them, that's all they need. And for them, they trust this process of life, and they will find a space to practice what they believe kind of in peace, without putting up much resistance, without being too curious as to what's at the bottom of the ocean. For others, they're like that one sheep that got lost, and Jesus is like, leaves the 99 to go look for that one. And a part of my purpose has been, I know there's someone that represents that one that has just wandered off and got lost. And so you've stumbled on this stuff. You've stumbled on metaphysics, astrology, occult. And instead of letting you sink to the bottom where there's monsters and evil and darkness, it's best that you're introduced to these things and you're informed of the need for discernment and how to safeguard your energy and how to understand what it all means. And then that's going to draw you back in toward your Christ consciousness, where you realize you don't need any of this stuff to begin with. And so that's kind of the motivation in sharing this, is because this is that sign that you feel you need, that confirms what you think you believe, or you believe. It just confirms that truth for you. So all of these words, I didn't make them up. I didn't design this language, but it's a language in and of itself, the language of numbers. It confirms and validates what truth rests in this knowledge of the 11. 11 is my personality number. It's also my destiny number. And I've had many visions and dreams where it's become apparent in understanding the symbolism. And then once I understood the symbolism, that's it. I'm kind of like, okay, let it go. There's no need to dwell on it, fixate on it, worship it. It's just a number, but it's a number that bears a lot of symbolism and significance. And it helps me to relay this message to many of you who see these numbers and you have no effing idea what it all means. Some of you have maybe felt, it's negative, it's dark, it's up. That's crazy. Look how the light from my lamp is like right in the center of the board. You're heading to the light. Another word would be gate, gateway. That equals the number 1. And that's what this is. It's in essence a gate. It's within the consciousness. So by saying it's within the consciousness, what we mean is as you're traversing through your understanding of certain things, you're entering into new perceptions, new identities. You're no longer the person you were when you were in ignorance. It's like when you wake up and you start your day, your personality comes online, your intentions for the day, your plans for the day, your people you know and interactions and connections, everything kind of comes online when you wake up to start your day. Likewise, in an esoteric sense, when you were dead, meaning you were just living life and you had no spiritual awareness, no spiritual need, when you were in that dead state, you were a whole different person. As you began to start to question things and hear things and see synchronicities, and you started thinking you were tripping, and then you started feeling a distance between you and the people around you, and you started studying stuff and finding people on YouTube, you started to wake up. And what became apparent to you is that there's something in you, there's more to your existence than you thought. And that is a part of you that's coming online, and you're seeking and you're moving. That's the force that's moving you toward evolution and toward an awakening. For many people who have some measure of awareness that there has to be more to this, that we continue to grow and evolve and ascend into that fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional, seventh dimensional plane until we do become angelic, if you will, in our existence, non-material, not limited by law, the law of gravity, the law of polarity, the law of duality. These laws are limiting here. That's why it's like if you're too happy in life, there's just this fear that the pendulum will swing and life just gets hard, or some unexpected hardship, downfall, disappointment that robs you of that happiness. That law of duality doesn't exist in the higher planes. It isn't a black versus white, up versus down, good versus evil. None of that exists in the higher realms, which is what any of you who have any interest in embracing and embodying your light body, that's what you desire, is to move beyond this limited plane into the higher realm where you're free from these laws, you're free from all of that, and you're in a space free of ego, free of identity. It's not about your hair, your skin, your body, but you're in a space where you're able to co-create and create in love. And it's effortless. There is something beyond myself that is here to help guide and teach. And I see it as a gateway that I've entered into. In all of my fear and in all of my uncertainty, I entered into that gate because there was at one point where I renounced all of this stuff. I've mentioned it before. I renounced astrology. I renounced it. I said, this stuff is bad. It's evil. God doesn't approve. It's in the Bible. And when I did that, and I was going back to church and everything, and when I did that, I heard a voice clear as day, like the sound your mother, like that the voice your mother makes when she says, "What did I say?" And I was like, I felt like I was in trouble because I was rejecting my purpose by thinking I was safe if I just go to church and I just do what God says and the Bible says, I'm going to be good. But it was like, what did I say do? What did I tell you to do? I understand what's written. You want to believe, you want to do what's right. I respect that, but that's not what I said. I told you to do this. And it was like I almost had to accept that I don't know it all, and maybe me holding on so hard to what's familiar and what feels comfortable and what feels like the right thing to do isn't what God wants me to do. Maybe I'm here to teach and share on these things because I'm helping souls to awaken, and that's what I've been told to do. Abraham was supposed to sacrifice his son. Like, many people would have disagreed or said, what are you doing? Why would you do that? That's your own child. But he was given an assignment that seems to be unexplainable, or something that is utterly like, why would God say do this? So that's how I felt, like, I'm not supposed to do this. And I resisted it, but then it became apparent. What did I tell you to do? Let go of your fear. And I understand the Bible is what the Bible is, but some people worship that and abide by that more than they do their innate purpose and what Spirit is telling them to do. They'll rather stick to that, what's familiar and comfortable, and those laws, rather than what you're being told to do. So I feel like that's what I'm doing, that Christ in me has sent me to look for some of you on your wandering path and to say, hey, it's okay. I know where you are. I'm right here with you. And you can find your way back to that source of knowing and that source of love and that source of guidance, because you have been wondering, you have been unsure. I digress. One more word I want to look at, and then we will pick this up at another time. And just so some of you are aware, these words you can write down yourself, but 11, just briefly, because someone asked, 11 is associated with the gate to spirit, or to a spirit. So keep in mind that some of you have entered onto paths or into certain territory that is not the gate toward the all, toward that benevolent spiritual force. Some of these things, teachings can take you down dark paths. So don't assume 11 is all good in that sense. Some of it can be misleading. So that's why you have to use discernment and test the spirit behind any and everything that you're doing. 22 is connected to mastery. That is why the word master equals 22. 33 is associated with manifestation, to bring something down, as you are a descendant. You descended onto this plane from your mother's womb. You came here from a higher place. Your soul did, okay? So your physical body is the manifestation of your soul's descent onto this earthly plane. The word teacher equals 33. You are here to learn lessons. Your soul is here to learn. Christ was a master teacher. He taught people, and his death at 33 is symbolic in association with the manifestation of God on earth. 44, builder, is connected with the master builder or security, that while we're here, we are intended to build on our knowledge, build our wisdom, build our relationship with one another, build on our consciousness. So some of you may see this number 44 appear or keep showing up. It's meaning that you're building right now. Maybe you're studying, maybe you're working towards something. That number may manifest. 55 is associated with a radical shift. This could be a radical shift in either direction. It doesn't mean that things are going to shift for the better and life may improve. Sometimes 55 may show up when there's an upheaval or some distress coming into your life. It could be a breakup or separation. It could be losing your job, your house. It could be losing your mind temporarily, where you feel like you're in a state of chaos and uncertainty and like you're going crazy. You're losing it. That number may show up. And it also can show up when there are positive and benevolent changes that are entering into your life. Again, it's a matter of discernment, and please don't have any fear associated with these numbers. 66 is connected to the fall, simply because there are times where our consciousness has slipped and will slip into ignorance, and there are just coincidentally are 66 books in the Bible, and it does talk very much about man's fall from grace, man's fall from God, man's detachment from God, and not seeing that God is within us. We've always seen God as an outside entity, and in our efforts to just live life on our own egotistical means, we experience a fall. But you also have words like happy and family that equal to 66, but you also have words like curse and woman and the abyss associated with 66, and many people don't see that number too often. 77 is connected to mystic power. These are the unexplainable phenomena and anomalies and things that happen in your reality. People saying some things at the right time that create that synchronicity. Christ equals 77. Mystic power is that ability to create power and change in your life without you having much to do with it. Like, this wasn't your magic. This is some other level, next level type stuff, where your soul has now become receptive to the possibility of mysticism and unexplained events. 88 is connected to unobstructed force. So this could be connected to very, very powerful change that is more collective. This isn't too much on an individual level, but 88 would signify a collective unobstructed force that changes things, meaning you have no control over the active volcano in the Philippines or the earthquakes in Puerto Rico, the tsunamis, the climate change. Like, you have no control over that, but it's going to happen whether humans want it to or not. This means a change has to take place, and it's going to happen without your interference. 99 is connected to ascension and enlightenment. I've said time and time again, this is why the word ascension and rapture equate to 99. This is the elevation of consciousness that allows humans to ascend from the physical focus, the physical desires, the base, the density. We ascend from that. Doesn't mean that you will not still take on physical form. It just means that your experience and expression of this physical realm is going to be drastically different as you ascend in consciousness, to the point where you literally won't see. Remember, C equals 11. You literally won't see the suffering and pain and loss and all of the negative stuff. It won't be in your perception anymore. And some people are so familiar with that part of their reality that they feel like, oh, well, I need to help. I still need to be a part of that. I still need to be in the third dimension. And you don't want to let go. You don't want to detach. But ascension means your consciousness has detached from that realm and it's no longer in your perception. And so you start to see and witness and experience a fifth dimensional reality. I can say from experience, I have seen it. I have tapped into that space, that place, and it was hard for me to maintain it. And so I lost it and I sunk back into this third dimensional perception. But I saw that it was real because I was in a space at one point, my consciousness, where no matter how hard I tried, because I thought I was tripping, I couldn't think of nothing negative. I couldn't see pain or loss or suffering. Like, it was not even in my perception. I was just on this high with no drug, narcotic, nothing. I was just on this high of, oh my God, is this what this is? Is this what this is? Like, is this what it means to be on this level? And my perception began to shift to the point where I was starting to see like peace, like a new earth. It became literally here. And then life was just happening. You know, I was still trying to assimilate, and I felt like I fell back into that third dimensional perception just because there were people and situations around me that was grabbing my attention. So it was a beautiful experience, but I said, this is possible. We can all ascend and we can experience this ascension, and we can share in that ascension process with other like-minded souls. We just have to trust that this is a real thing. It's really happening. This is really real. This isn't make-believe. So I wanted to share that with you all. The number 11, I did mention the last thing I wanted to share is the word illusion, and why we have to be careful in this third dimensional reality pertaining to what we see and how we're directed and guided. Why it's important to use discernment and be careful is because the word illusion equals 111. If you are to write out all of the numbers with each letter, it equals 111. Now, what's interesting about this equaling 111 is that 100, see that well, but 111 creates this pathway that we tend to find ourselves where there's like, it's a mirror effect. So while we're here, we're aiming to see and understand ourselves, but we're doing so by kind of looking into this mirror. And this gets a little bit esoteric, where it could be hard to interpret. But when you look into a mirror, you know that you're standing there looking into the mirror. But the longer you look into the mirror, what you're looking at, the reflection, you begin to identify with as being you. You are not the reflection. You are you. You are standing looking into the mirror. So in life, you're going to have moments or bouts where the ego is identified as you. The physical body is identified as you. And that is what is a distraction. It's an illusion. You are not your reflection. You are you. But the only way to identify with you and to see you is not going to be with the physical eyes. It's going to be through the understanding and the wisdom that is attained through the inner work, the inner reflection, the inner knowing, the listening. So be mindful of that illusion, 111, which equals 3, which is connected to the cycle, which is connected to, you know, this sort of confusion that people feel, the Maya, nothing new under the sun, round and round and round. So we don't want to be stuck in this illusion. We want to ascend out of the illusion, identifying who I am. I know who I am beyond the reflection, beyond who you're looking at in the physical, my soul. That's what I want to awaken and enlighten and to know is the soul. Heal the soul, nurture the soul, be in communication with the soul. So the God within is able to communicate with the soul in guiding you and leading you and teaching you. So I hope that you guys found this video useful. I do thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel. Please share your comments concerning this number 11. Maybe you have a whole different perception. Maybe you think I'm delusional and none of this makes sense. But needless to say, I appreciate your feedback, and I'm curious to know how you resonate with the number 11, what synchronicities you experience. Do you feel this is a spiritual number? Thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, peace.